Well, here we are, beginning of the last turn, down to 3 players, with Philistines and Judah allied, and Aramea sitting on sort of almost guaranteed to win position. When we look at their numbers, Aramea can win by taking one more net city. They also have the best multiplier. So the number of additional cities that they have, it says totals up victory points and then multiplies them. Now they don't really say what victory points, the resulting total, yeah. So additional cities is your victory points. And Aramea has the best multiplier for whatever reason. I think that's all silly. I think there's a mistake there, essentially. I think the Philistines 1.5 makes sense. I think Aramea should be a 1, to tell you the truth. But as the rules are written, Aramea has this pretty much locked in the bag. Going beyond that, well, let's take a look at what our action track is like. Oh, another harvest and a build, giving Aramea a chance to bring its huge economy into play. They're outnumbered up here in the north, and they've got to figure out a way of getting some troops through there. The problem is, the troops have a long way to go. They are going to be coming from here. That's not so bad. I didn't realize that was there. They're going to be coming from there, essentially this space, to pump down. So that's not too bad. Over here they have numerical superiority, so they should have no trouble whatsoever holding that out. Economically, both Judah and the Philistines probably have easily enough money to pay for their troops they have and put out quite a few more. So we're going to see some bigger battles occurring. We're probably not going to see a lot of movement, though, because of that. It's when one side's wiped out that you see big gains being made. So if there had been no builds for a while, at the very least, however many action phases, you might have seen the Philistines and Judah push that far into Tyrian territory, for example. We're not going to get very much further than that, though. And then the fighting over here, well, no matter what, this is not going to really be an open, unless that battle is determined. Remember, these Bedouins are going to go away, though. They've got, well, 2 more action phases, I think, or one more action phase. Alright. And after that, well, we see a couple action phases, and then some more production. No idea whether there's another build in there, though. And the rest, of course, is hidden, so we don't know. But seeing that build before the actions, that's probably a bit of a bonus for Aramea as well. Alright, let's get started. Okay, well, done with the build phase. Got the harvesting out of the way. Basically, the entire Aramean army is on the board. They built a big stack up there to help reinforce their northern area. They built up as many fortresses as they might need. They still have plenty of resources. They could have piddled around building others, but the Philistines weren't able to build much. They put together this. They've still got a big stock of food. Judah, however, spent pretty much all its money building up this big infantry stack here. Try to give them the advantage in this area. Overall, it's pretty obvious Judah and the Philistines have the numerical advantage at this point. They might actually make some gains. It's not going to be enough to overcome Aramea's current lead as well as their better multiplier. But, well, if we see net numbers and Aramea is not as impressive, then it would be interesting. Alright, let's start on the action phase, but I've got to head to work. And get these guys. Another action, another event. Okay, so for the first action phase, Judah played a royal death, and then there was a procedure to move forward, but the Arameans got to move their Bedouins first. We can take them off the board. They're done at this point. And they made an attack against Judah up here with a few of them, wiping them out, but knocking the Judean units down to this. But then an expansion, positioning Joab's forces up against the Aramean main force. Abishai up here went and actually killed the royal death was a predecessor, as it were, the Aramean leader. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got another action here. The Philistines in the north, and Abishai is commanding the Philistines, have managed to succeed in taking both the cities they went for this turn. It's basically this, just attempting to knock the Arameans out as hard and as quickly as possible. Alright, well, we're up to another action phase, and we've got another one popping up here. So a lot of different, no new builds, but a lot of different conflicts are taking place. Another action phase. This time, you see the Philistines pulled up and actually took Tyre. Which had been fortified. They fought one round of combat, and then the Arameans pulled out because there was a bribe on one of the Aramean units, which, unlike the troops revolt I'm playing, allows it's just a one battle situation. So if you leave, you take the troops with you that defected, and it's no real harm. Over here, Joab made an attack against Medeba, and that was unsuccessful. All those Aramean chariots just tore apart. He didn't have as many phalanx as the Arameans had chariots, and they just really got completely hosed by it. He pulled out with one unit to stack with those other units. He couldn't retreat here because that would violate the stacking. Luckily, he did have a space he could go to over here. Alright, well, now we do some resource counting, draw some more events, and give people more bonuses for their follow-up actions. And we're seeing there's 2 more actions here. We don't know what's going on here. If there's not another action down there, there's not going to be anything after this, essentially. I can just cut off the end part of the turn, except maybe an event phase that probably can't do anything without an action, because even if it's an alliance or something, it's just not going to do much. Alright, well, let's push on. And indeed, that's the case. The tail end is all just harvesting and resources. I'm just going to pull them off the board so that it's easier to spot what we actually have. We have 2 action phases coming. That is it, with an event in between. And, well, if you look at the points, not that they matter at all, but production-wise, we're seeing the Philistines beginning to really start cranking. When they add Tyre areas, when they've got control of that northern area adjacent to them, they're getting a lot of points off that, which they weren't before. Judah, well, Judah's not as strong as it was before, actually. It's fallen down in position. So, given the multipliers and everything else, if Aramea manages to lose, Judah's not going to be the one to win. It's the Philistines who are. But you got to kind of figure, with that alliance and with a leader leading from Judah leading the Philistines, there's probably an intermarriage there, and the Philistines have almost been, added, in a sense, to the family of David. All right, well, let's get these last couple actions out of the way. And the Allies continue knocking out the Aramean forces. Basically, their northern section, it's wiped out. No question there. That was the Aramean attack. Then they withdrew and then lost another space northward. There's one city to be taken there. That's the best that the Philistines can do. And then over here, Judah's gone and taken Medeba, wiped out most of that chariot army. And again, there's one more city they can take, Rabbath-Ammon. There's going to be a heavy defense there, though. They're going to have trouble and actually have to face something which maybe they can't take. I think that's going to be a city too far, as it were. All right. Although, since they placed another leader here, they'll be able to reach it with the fresher troops, which will help a bit. Anyway, that's what it comes down to. Can those guys take those 2 cities? And there's an event phase to help them. Well, the event phase brought something I forgot about that can affect these. The Philistines have a Hand of Fate chit. They can throw that into play and then get new events, or new actions that they can throw in here. So they can expand the turn a little bit. I like that idea. Well, it didn't help. A build and a resource phase, no aid there. I mean, yes, there'd be more troops on the board, but they need action phases. Only action phases are going to change this world. And there now is no event phase, and therefore there's absolutely no way that anything's going to change. So we've got one last action phase. Bang, we're going to take a shot at it. The Aramaeans actually might have had a way to cancel that event, but we'll let it be. Okay. I was wrong about there being fresh troops. Joab's final battle here is going to be kind of painful. All his units are fatigued. Now, it's not like the Aramaeans have all that much in the background that's very good. They have, some militia, etc. So it may not go terribly well for them. They may lose the battle, but I really doubt that the Judeans are going to have enough to take on a big 4 city. That's the only thing that was near them, though. So this is what they had to do. On the other hand, up here, the Philistines did capture that additional city. I'll do a quick count at the end of all this, but there really wasn't much wiggle room on this turn. Whatever happened pretty much was going to happen. Well, at the end, Joab didn't even have enough numbers to break the forces sitting out there. So, now we come to counting. We can do that here. I love counting so much. Actually, that's one of the big disagreements I have with this game, is how much counting there is in it. But let's just take a quick look. First of all, we'll use a little control marker to indicate who owns how many points. None of this matters. Now, in a way, it's almost unimportant what the points are at the end, except when you are playing in a competitive game, sometimes it's kind of fun to say, I did beat you. But it's really not what the games tend to be about, is it? Alright. So let's take a quick look at what the Philistines have here. And it looks to me like they have 2 cities. They snuck another one down there. 3, 4. They have 5 additional cities. So we'll give the Philistines 5. Ooh. Judah, 1, 2. Looks to me like they only gained 3 cities total. And with their modifier, that's not good at all. And now for the Aramaeans, who have the higher modifier. 1, 2, 3. They kept that. 4. So you can see, just in terms of net value, the Philistines actually came out ahead. Now here's the problem. 5 times 1.5 is 7.5. 4 times 2 is 8. The Aramaeans will still be ahead by the victory point count here. I think that victory point count is skewed. I think the Philistines actually did a pretty darn good job. Given that they were almost destroyed for most of the game. But, hey, whatever. Like I said, it doesn't really matter who won here. What really generally matters is the dynamics of the play. Victory conditions are there to spark and drive those dynamics, right? So when it comes down to actually figuring the victory conditions, well, I think they're a lot less interesting. And that's kind of in opposition to what a Euro kind of gives you. With a Euro, at least in my view, you're usually so focused on those victory conditions, and you're not really interacting with other players, so it's not terribly interesting what's happening in the game. The only really interesting thing is, did I win or lose? Kind of like a card game or something along those lines. Although even card games, something like Hearts, has more interaction than a lot of these Euros do. Anyway, enough of that. I'll put this one up and then come back with a review after I clear it up.